Okay, we saw a Mishnah yesterday on Daf Ches Amid Beis that a man has the capacity to go ahead and make his son into a Nazir. Whether the son has to call himself or the father can call the son, seems to be machlokes b'shainim. However, he could do that, but an Isha can't do that. Okay, that's the key. Says the Gemara, Ish in aval Isha loy. In other words, a man can make his son into a Nazir, but a woman can't.
Where are we starting from, Rabbi?
The bottom of Chav Ches Amid Beis. The Gemara. It says the Gemara in the bottom of Chav Ches Amid Beis. Ish in aval Isha loy. My taima. What's the reason? Rabbi Yochanan Amar halacha ben Nazir. It's halacha Moshe Messina ben Nazir. In other words, only a man can go ahead and make his son into a Nazir, but a woman can't. That's what the halacha states. Again, when we have halacha Messina, there's no ifs, ands, or buts. This is it's the Raisa, and this is the. However, Rabbi Yossi, Rabbi Chanina, Amar Reish Lakish. We have a girsa. Probably the best girsa would be Amar Reish Lakish, Amar Rabbi Yossi, Rabbi Chanina. In order to machanach him in mitzvahs. In other words, if you look at Taisus says, "Halachi Moshe Messina ben Nazir, kedei lechanchoy umidrabanan." So you have an nafkamina the rabbanan. It's rabbinical. So the rabbanan al chinuch said a man can make his child into a Nazir. Bez Hashem, when you finish the shir, I'll go back over into this Indian. What's the whole Indian chinuch? By making your son into a Nazir, what kind of chinuch is that? Right? It's not like a mitzvah to be a Nazir. It means if you're a Nazir, there's a mitzvah to keep it, but is there a mitzvah to become a Nazir? So we'll discuss that Bez Hashem later on. Okay, now the Gemara is going to go through a few slew of questions on Reish Lakish, and some of them are going to need a little hakdama for information for. Fred the Gemara, Ihachi. If the halacha is like Reish Lakish, that it's a din in chinuch, afila ishanami, even an isha as well. And Isha as well should be able to go ahead and be machanach his son. Well, notice the Gemara's havamina is there's a din of chinuch, a woman as well. And for the Gemara, ish chayev l'chanach beno b'mitzvos ve'ena isha chayev l'chanach es beno. A man is mechuyev, but not a woman. Again, you say this stika halacha. The din of chinuch is on the father, not on the mother. Memela, if the whole din like Reish Lakish of becoming a nazir is a din in chinuch, they're only a father and not the mother. Bishna Rabbi Yochanan Damalachi ben Nazir Amtu Lahachi Beno in Bitoiloi. Dafka now is another halacha, father to a son, but not a daughter. That's the halacha of Mishinai, no questions. El Reish Lakish Afilu Bitoi. If it's a din in chinuch, then the father's mechuyev in chinuch, so the mother's not. But what about the son and daughter? The father. The whole din of making a son into a Nazir is a din of chinuch. He should be able to make his daughter as well, because it's a din of chinuch. And the Gemara, Ksava b'no chayiv l'chanchay, bitay ein mechayiv l'chancha. He's mechuyev to go ahead and mechanech his son. He's not mechuyev to mechanech his daughter.
How about Shmuel? Didn't Chana make Shmuel a Nazir?
It's Rabbi Kiva Eger on the Mishnah asked that kasha. Rabbi Kiva Eger on the Mishnah asked the kasha. Doesn't have a good question. The Radak. Rabbi Kiva Eger quotes the Radak in Sefer Shmuel, where it says Moira lo yavar roishai. So Pashat Moira can mean the fear of bus of Adam, but there's another pshat. Moira is what is a razor. So if that's the case, Shmuel was made a nazir by his mother. So the Chayre, how's that possible according to this? It's a great question. Hesh. The answer is Radak remains shver. Radak remains shver. That how could he, if a woman is not able to make her son into a nazir, how's it possible that Chana made him into a nazir? It's a very good question. We will remain without an answer. Okay, but that was the question before. That was the question where the son, the mother. Over here, the question's on the daughter, the father and the daughter. Your question was on the previous Gemara, that the father in, but the mother not, right? And here, Shmuel's mother made him. Here is the next thing. It's the next step. Over here, you have what? You have the only a chiyuv on the father for the son and not the daughter. I have the chinuch and tremendous chiddush that is chinuch for the son and not for the daughter. Places we're going to bring says l'chayr is shver, because isn't there a din in the last parak in Masechta Yuma we discussed that you're going ahead and be machanech a daughter to go ahead and start fasting beforehand. So you see there is a din of chinuch for a daughter, right? Right. You start a year before or 6 months before, but it applies as well to the daughter as the son. So you see, there is a din of chinuch. We'll see that Taisus Bez Hashem. Says the Gemara Vayda. Bishlam Rabbi Yochanan the Amar Halachi ben Nazir Hachi ben Naziris in ben Nedarim Loi. It's a din that's unique to Naziris, but it doesn't extend to Nedarim. Reish Lakish Afilu Nedarim Nami. Even Nedarim also, father should be able to make what a neder to his son. In other words, just like he can put him into a state of Naziris, he should be able to go ahead and make a neder that the son would have to stay away from a certain object, right? Not to eat basa, not to eat the coleslaw, whatever it is. Zachari should be able to do that as well. So the Gemara says, you're right, let me boy kamar. You don't need to tell me. Let me boy bin adorim. The less they nivel by adorim, where there is no what? Inyan of inui, I feel bin asiris, this they nivel, because he won't be able to drink wine. I feel hachi chayv lachamchay. Okay. Bishlam Rabbi Yochanan dama halachi ben Nazir hanik tani micha. Either he, the child, was morcha, the child protested, or shemichu kroivim, or his relatives protested. That would make sense. That what? That they could protest. El Rabbi Yossi bar Chanina, Amrei Shlakish, Kol Kiminu Kroivim, right? The Amrulei like Tigmrei Mitzvah. If the whole Indian is Indian of Chinuch, why in the world, like our Mishnah says, that the son or the Kroivim could end in Naziris? Guys, your father's trying to be Mechanech the son, right? I want to make you a Nazir to teach you something. Good. Says the relatives, no, we don't want to let you. Where does a relative get involved in the chinuch of a child? They're outsiders. If it's Allah Mishmi Sinai, so that's part of Allah Mishmi Sinai that they can make a macho and protest. But if it's not Allah Mishmi Sinai, it's not Allah Mishmi Sinai, then why in the world can they get involved? They have no right getting involved. Says the Gemara, called chinuch le'choshiv loy nichalei. Any chinuch that is not choshiv loy nichalei. Okay, so the Rosh speaks out over here. If you look at the Rosh, called chinuch le'choshiv bizyoin ahave. It's a bizayon loy nichalei. It's not good for him. In other words, it's not good for the child. Kol chinuch she'ein kroivav mechashvin oisoi. Right? Any chinuch that the kroivim are not machshev bizayon have. In other words, if it's something that's not good for the child, the chachamim were talking that this such chinuch that the kroivim could hear, they can go ahead and stop the bizayon. So that's a very interesting svara that we're going ahead and deciding what's good chinuch and what's not good chinuch. Right? We're saying over here it's not such good chinuch, so therefore they can get involved. That's the teretz. We know a person's not allowed to cut off his payas, right? We know a person's not allowed to cut off his payas. Do not round off your head. So when you're going to become a Nazir, you're going to take a haircut and you're going to go ahead and remove all your hair. So if it's the deraisa dekadin Allah Chomesh Misinai, I can understand why the Naziris overrides what the din of Hakafa. El Rabbi Yosef Rabbi Chanina Amrei Shlakish or Reish Lakish Amrei Chanina K'dei Lechanchei b'mitzvahs hakavet hakafa. In other words, if it's only a din d'Rabbanan, how could they go ahead and rabbinically make him into a Nazir? It's going to involve a nisa deraisa of what? Of going ahead and removing all the hair. And for the Gemara, Kasava hakafa kol haroish midrabbanan. In other words, the issa deraisa l'sakifu bas roishchem is if you just round off your head and leave like a monk-like piece on top. But if you're going to cut off all your hair, then it's only the Rabbanan. Lashon le'sakifu pas roishchem. Do not surround the pas roishchem. So the din d'oraisa the Gemara is holding would only be if you go ahead. I think it's the Rambam brings down in Hilchos Avodah Zarah. It seems to be that some type of haircut for the goyim that they would cut their hair the way like the monks. So then that's a din d'oraisa. But if you remove your hair, like shave off all your head, then it will only be the Rabbanan. So therefore, the Rabbanan Dika Chinuch could override the Rabbanan Dika Israbat of Lasakifu Pas Roishchem. V'asi Chinuch the Rabbanan v'dachi Akav the Rabbanan. Okay. Now you know that karbanos, if it's the Raisa, you bring a carbon. The Naz has to bring a carbon. But if the Naziris is only the Rabbanan, how in the world can you bring karbanos? Bishlam Rabbi Yochanan dama halachi ibn Nazir. It's Allah ibn Nazir. The Raisa ahachi megaleach ma'isi carbon. Therefore, he takes the haircut. He brings the carbon. El Rabbi Yossi Rabbi Chanina Amar Reish Lakish Kedei Lechanchei b'mitzvahs. It's a din of chinuch d'Rabbanan. Al kamaisi chul mazara. You're bringing animals of chulin into the azara. You're bringing animals of chulin azara. Says in Gemara, kasava chulin b'azara lav daraisa. That chulin b'azara is not daraisa. It's a chiddush that you wouldn't think it. The din of chulin b'azara, in fact, is not the rabbanon. It's daraisa. Right? Now the question is, how in the world would this work? You have three sets of kabbanis. You have a shlamim, an oila, and a chatas. Now you hold chulin b'azara as the rabbanon, meaning I'm moided to you that these animals are chulin, but you're bringing them as kabbanis, fellas. How do you do that? You told me it's the rabbanon, and really, therefore, the kabbanis are not kabbanis. So it should be chulin ba'azara, a non-kodesh animal b'chazara. So that's the rabbanon. Now you're bringing them. So how does that work? So the shlomim is not a problem. You bring it as a neder, as a nedava, right? The oil is not a problem. You can bring an oil as neder and nedava. The chatas is the problem. So the Tosfos speaks out and the Rosh speaks out that you're going to go ahead and sprinkle the dam with the tanai that it's not dam but it's mayim, and you're going to burn the basar. You're going to burn the basar as you're going to imurim. You can say it's a shem eitzim. You're going to see what that it's not considered the imurim. It's considered eitzim. I'm bringing it up the shem eitzim. So therefore, it's a workaround how you can go ahead possibly bring the chatas despite the fact that it's not really a korban chatas. The sprinkling the bot is mayim, and the burning it as eitzim. Bishlam Rabbi Yochanan Dam Halachi Ibn Nazir Hachi Ki Mitwa when you come Tamei Maisi Carbon Siparin. You're going to bring a carbon of two birds, right? The chatas and the oilus oilif and chatas oilif. Va'achol Kayim Malika. So guys, outside, we know that in order for us to eat chulin, we need a shchita. The shchita matters. It takes off the shem of minachai, and it's a mitzvah of shchita. In the Beis Hamikdash, by every animal, the same thing applies. This is din of shchita. There's a unique din by the oila soif and the chata soif, and what we need is the chata soif, is that you do not go ahead and do shchita. You do what's called malika. Malika is the kayin would go ahead in one hand, hold them, have a long nail. With his nail, he would go ahead and cut the simana with his nail. That's not called shchita. That's called malika. Now, malika, if it's done outside the Beis Hamikdash, is considered nevela. You can't eat it. But in the Beis Hamikdash, the chiddush is that chata soif you can eat. Tosfos points out that it must be that the evarim, it must be that you take the two simanim, the trach and esophagus of the bird, and you bring it around to the back and cut it. Because if you would go through with your nail through the neck, that would render the treifa. Forget the shchita, malika, you'd have a nevela problem, you'd have a treifa problem, okay? So therefore, the question is the following. Bishleim, according to Rabbi Yochanan, who holds the Lacha Sinai, the Lacha states that it's a chatas oif with midaraisa, and like every other chatas oif, the kohen could eat it. Mashen came according to Rabbi Shlokish that it's only a din in chinuch. How in the world are we able to go ahead and eat the chatas oif? After all, it should be nevela, because again, you're not supposed to. It's not a carbon. So another problem. But Rabbi Yochanan Malachi Ibn Azah Hachikimati Amti Maisi Carbon Siporin. If he became Tomei, he brings two birds. The Yachol Kayin Malika, and the Kayin can eat the Malika, despite the fact that outside the Beis Hamikdash it's nevela. El Rabbi Yosi Rabbi Chanina Amareish Lakish Hakachol nevela. So no, Rabbi Yosi Yehuda, the whole like Rabbi Yosi Yehuda. They ain't shchita loif min atayra. Mamish, a workaround, guys. Chiddush nifla. That you want to eat birds outside the Beis Hamikdash, all you have to do is kill it. Stab it. You stab the simanim, kill it, you're good. You don't need a shchita. So therefore, since you don't need a shchita, the malika would not render it in the vela. So two things. And in addition, the chulin b'azar lav daraisa. So you have two works around. One, chulin b'azar is not daraisa, and straightens that one, that you don't need shchita, and therefore you'll be able to eat it. Okay, now, the Gemara we have a whole list of things, challenges that we challenge just to review the various challenges. We said that, like Rabbi Yochanan, we understand why a woman can't make a child into a Nazir, because that's the halacha we say only a man can. Like Reish Lakish, the din of chinuch is only on the father and not on the mother. According to Rabbi Yochanan, I can understand why a man can make his daughter into a Nazira, but we don't understand we don't understand Reish Lakish. Why can't a man make his daughter? And we said there's no chinuch on the daughter. It says that what about other Nedarim? Bishtaim will go to Rabbi Yochanan the din of making a neder. Nazir is limited in Naziris. Halacha Moshe b'Sinai. Like Reish Lakish, you should be able to go ahead and make a neder as well for chinuch. Let's say you make a neder to ask something for chinuch. Says the Gemara, I'll tell you the truth. But you're right. Maybe boy, not only Naziris, but even neder, not Naziris as well. What about making a macha? Like Reish Lakish, I can understand why the Kroidim, like Rabbi Yochanan, I can understand why the Kroidim can make a macha. If they're all what? It's Halacha Moshe b'Sinai states that they could make a macha. Like Reish Lakish, why can they get interrupted chinuch? And it says it's a chinuch that's lechashuv, that's a bezoyah for the child. They can go ahead and interrupt. The question is, how could you go ahead, like Bishlam, I understand when the Nasa takes a haircut and he's going to go ahead and be over the Isra of Sakifa Basra Shem. I understand that according to Rabbi Yochanan. Say Allah Chamash Misinai. Like Reish Lakish, what do you say? You're going to have to say it's only the Raisa when you cut the payas off around off the head and leave hair. But if you take off all the hair, then it's only the Rabbanon, and the Din the Rabbanon of Chinuch overcomes the Din the Rabbanon of Sakifa Basra Shem. What about bringing a carbon, right? What about bringing a carbon? How in the world could you bring a carbon if it's only Drabanan? School and Bazara is only Drabanan. What about this of the Kohen eating Malika? This says Reish Lakish, the shchita of an oif is not necessary. You can just do nechira, stab it, and it's simanim. So we answered up every single possibility, every single challenge to Reish Lakish. We answered every single challenge to Reish Lakish. Says the Gemara, she bala suffix. How do you know chatas oif can be brought on a suffix? Now, suffix usually we've done this quite a few times. The woman, you're not sure whether she gave birth or she didn't, and she has to bring a carbon, right? That's a suffix. So she's going to bring a bird al suffix, and the suffix by a man is asham tali. It's shaykh by woman also, but your this is unique to a woman. Says the Gemara. Sheina. That it's not eaten. So by Talmud Leimar, the Hazor is Zayvay, a Zachar in the cave, a Makish in the cave of the Zachar, make a Hekesh in the cave of the Zachar. Ma Zachar, just like a Zachar, maybe carbon al Avadai. He brings a carbon for Chatos. After the cave, maybe carbon al Avadai. She brings the Chatos. Taisus points out you do not need a Hekesh for this, but for the oncoming Gemara. Ma Zachar maybe al Safik, he brings an Asham Toli. Again, we had Machloikis. Whether one piece is suffix in that one piece, or two pieces, one is vadai, one of them is vadai kosher, one's vadai not. Okay, but that's you being an asham tali until it protects you, until you find out later that you're chayiv or not. Then you bring a chatas if you were. After the keva maybe in all the suffix, she'll bring on a suffix, she'll bring a yoledes. Maybe alavada, maybe a suffix. Just like the vada, he brings he's chayiv an oil, an asham, he brings an ayel. So too, asham tali is an ayel. After the cave, minshi maybe alavada, which is a bird, maybe a suffix. Now, again, we want to prove that you don't eat it, and you wanted to say that you could eat it. So you wanted to say that a bird does not need shchita, guys. That's the kasha, right? Again, we're leading up to a question. We had a kasha. Like Reish Lakish, how in the world could you eat the bird? We want to answer like Yosef Yehuda, that in fact that it doesn't require shchita. Fred Gemara, we're going to see that Yosef Yehuda does require shchita. Imazach maybe carbon benechal. If Asham Tali is eaten after the cave, maybe a carbon benechal. I might think that the woman's yoled, that's the carbon she brings, is eaten. Nechal says I might think it's eaten. Amrit says lo yamamrit. You can't say that. B'zacha shekain issa echad. By zacha the only shaila is whether it's chul and bazara. By Nekeva, the reason it's not eaten because there's two possible Isurim. My Shnei Isurim, what are the two Isurim? Lav, Issa Nevela, the Chulin Ba'azara. In other words, maybe you're making guys, look at me, you're making a comparison between the suffix, the Asham Tali of a man, and the suffix Yoled, that's by a woman, right? You're saying just like this is eaten, this is eaten. Says the Gemara, maybe this is eaten because you only have one Issa, the Issa of Chulin Ba'azara. Over here, this can't be eaten because there's two Yisurim. What are the two Yisurim? Chulin Ba'azara, and the one we need, Nevela. You just told me that by Oif, you don't need Nevela. There's no Nevela, there's no Malik, there's no Shchita required. But you're telling me now there is Shchita required. That's the Kasha. Again, we wanted the whole teretz according to Rabbi Yosef Rechnina and Reish Lakish quoting Rechnina, the whole teretz, he just woke up. The whole teretz the whole teretz, according to Rabbi Yosef and Chanina, the whole teretz was that oif does not require shchita. If those doesn't require shchita, like Reish Lakish, despite the fact that the whole reason you're bringing the animal, the bird, is out, if they became tummy, is out chinuch, it's only the Rabbanon. Since shchita is not required, it's only the Rabbanon. Therefore, it won't be a din of malika. It would not be a problem. Says the Gemara. Now you see, it is a problem. You see that that it's not eaten because there's two problems. One, chulin bazara, and two, and more importantly, it's the vela. So you see that it is the vela, that it does require a shchita. So back to the question on how could Reish Lakish say that chinuch the Rabbanon would require the Nazir to bring a korban, two birds, and it's not a problem with the birds that can be eaten. It is a problem with the birds. It is, you do require, it is malika, a malika of a bird that doesn't belong there is nevela. Maskal Rav Acha, Breid Ravika, the Dilma Mechayv Mishum, Mischaze Kitreya Isur Midrabanan. Maybe the reason you don't eat it because it's like two Isur Midrabanan, 1 versus 2, but in the Chinami it's not the Raisa. Okay, so that was Yotzim Midraveinu. We had Machloikis Beishamai, the Machloikis between Reish Lakish and Rabbi Yochanan. Again, just to reiterate what is going on, we said a man can make his son into a Nazir. He cannot make his daughter into a Nazir, right? A man can make it and not a woman. Halacha Moshe Sinai, by what? According to Rabbi Yochanan, it's not a problem. It's limited to a man and his son. No questions, no ifs, ands, or buts. Like Reish Lakish that said it's a din in chinuch. We had a problem. We asked many questions. Predominantly that there's no din of chinuch by a daughter, and there's no din of chinuch by a woman to her daughter, right? There's no din of chinuch for a man to a daughter. And there's no din of what of a woman is not mechuyev even to go ahead and mechanech a son. That's what we said. Let's say there's machloikis between Rabbi Yochanan and Amoroyim. Rabbi Yochanan and Reish Lakish is in fact machloikis tanoim. Ad masai mader es benoi benazir. Up until what time can a person make his son into a nazir? In other words, the Mishnah said you could do it. Is there a statute of limitations vis-a-vis the time? Ad sheyavi shtei sarais, until he brings 2 sarais. We know the sign of a boy. A sign of a boy is that when he reaches 13, there's a chazak. It's called chazaka de Rava, that he has 2 pubic hairs, that he brought 2 ears. Right? That's the chazaka. Again, not that we don't know for sure, but muchzik that if he reaches the day, we give an arbitrary date of 13 and a day. That's the time. Rabbi. So in other words, 13 and a day. Anytime before, he's able to go ahead and make a son into a nazir. Rabbi Yosef Yehuda Omer, Ad sheyagia la'oines nedarim, until he reaches oines nedarim. Now, oines nedarim is a year before, 12 in a day. There's a concept, guys, of mufla samech leish, that the idea of nedarim is something that a person understands what they're doing, even though they're physically still a cotton. If he understands what he's doing, linyan nedarim and linyan kabbalas naziris, he would be a nazir. Says Rabbi Yosef, Rabbi Yehuda, that the limitations of a child ends a year before. Loit Rabbi would end at 13 in a day. Loit Rabbi Yosef Yehuda would end at 12 in a day, because that's lo'oinus the darim. That's when a child would know the darim. He's still a cotton, but the Indian darim is considered a gadol, and therefore at that point in time, no longer could the father make his child into a nazir. We want to suggest now machloikus between Rabbi and Rabbi Yochanan and Reish Lakish is this machloikus between Rabbi and Rabbi Yosef Yehuda, meaning like Rabbi Yochanan, who says Salachal Moshe Sinai, he holds like what? He holds like Rabbi, that you go up to 13 in a day. That's the day. Even if he understands beforehand, Salachal Moshe Sinai goes up to 13 in a day. Like Rabbi Shimon Lakish, who says it's din in chinuch, so the chinuch ends when what? When his own neder is, his own naziris is a naziris. And that would only go up to 12 in a day. Says the Gemara. Let's see it inside. My love tanoihi, the Rebbe sava halacha he ben nazir. Says Rebbe, it's halacha he ben nazir. Even though he reaches 12 in a day, madelei va'azal ad demaisi shtei saras. He can go up to 13 in a day. Rabbi Yosef Yehuda says no. The amachi gila and darim sava kadei lechan chayv mitzvahs. The kiyum the nafik mishusay. And since he leaves the rishus of his father linyan darim, sulay mechayev. There's no din of chinuch. So we want to say the machloikus between Amoroyim, Rabbi Yochanan, and Reish Lakish is a machloikus between Rabbi and Rabbi Yosef Yehuda. Rabbi would hold like Rabbi Yochanan, Rabbi Yochanan would hold like Rabbi, and Reish Lakish would hold like Rabbi Yosef Yehuda. Seven light. The Kol Yalma Halachi Ibn Nazir. Everyone would agree. Sai Rebbe and Sai Rabbi Yehuda would say it's Halachi Ibn Nazir. Everyone. They would agree like Rabbi Yochanan. The Hacha b'mufla samach leish k'miflagi. And here they're speaking about mufla samach leish, the din of 12 in a day. Rabbi Savar mufla samach leish the Rabbanan. The whole din of mufla samach leish is the Rabbanan. So now you have the Raisa versus the Rabbanan. So that the Raisa would overcome the Rabbanan. The Asi the Raisa of Halacha Moshe Sinai, right? Dachi the Rabbanan of mufla samach leish. Rabbi Yosef Yehuda Sava, no. Mufla samach leish the Raisa. The din of Oinus Nedarim a year before earlier is a din of the Raisa the Gedin. And therefore, since it's the Raisa the Gedin, the Allah Moshe Sinai the Raisa cannot overcome the Raisa the Gedin. So you're not locked into saying the machlokes between Rabbi Yochanan and Reish Lakish is a machlokes Tanoim. Rabbi Yochanan could come out according to both. Rabbi Yochanan, everyone knows Sai Rebbe and Sai Rabbi Yehuda hold like Rabbi Yochanan. Allah Moshe Sinai. Rebbe says that that Mufla Samach Leish, the day of 12 in a day, Banis Nadarim is considered is the Rabbanan. The Deraisa overcomes the Rabbanan, you go up to 13 in a day. Whereas Reish Yehuda holds that what it is, that's what it's Deraisa. So the Deraisa can overcome the Deraisa 12 in a day, you only go up to 12 in a day. Now, you can go the opposite direction as well. In other words, just as Rabbi Yochanan can come out according to both, Reish Lakish can come out according to both, right? Now, what do Reish Lakish say? It's a din in chinuch, right? And the mufla samach leish the Rabbanan he. Rabbanan savi, asi chinuch the Rabbanan. So everyone holds that what? Kedei l'chanchos b'mitzvahs. And mufla samach leish is the Rabbanan. Rabbi Sava, asi chinuch the Rabbanan, v'dachi mufla samach leish the Rabbanan. What's the more stronger the Rabbanan the din? The din of what? Of being mechanech your sons. And that would overcome the mufla samach leish, and therefore you go up to 13 in a day. Rabbi Yehuda says no. The might shigila and it's the darim ksav aliyasi connect the rabbanon the dachli mufla sachal leish the raisa. It would not overcome it. It would stay the same. So again, both Reish Lakish and Rabbi Yochanan held serve. They both can go hold. Again, they don't want to argue like Tanoim. They both can hold like the Tanoim. Leima hani Tanoi kahani Tanoi. Now we're leaving Rabbi Yochanan and Reish Lakish, and we're saying the machlokes between Rabbi that you go up to 13 in a day, and Reish Lakish that says 12 in a and Rabbi Yosef Yehuda 12 in a day, right? It's totally the machlokes Tanoim between the Tanakama and Rabbi Gamliel. The Tanya. Okay, before we see this Maisa, I want you to look at the Rush. The Rush is Diber Masel Ve'vil of fun of Rabbi Gamliel. Ve'vil of Rabbi Gamliel leBoikai b'Yom Shediroi. They brought Rabbi Chanina in front of Rabbi Gamliel the day that he made the neder, that the father made the neder. At this time, he was older than Yud Gimel. They're going to bring him there if he bought Stei Saris or not. Rabbi Yehuda says, like El Bashnas Yud Gimel, he bought him. In other words, did he bring him 12 in a day, or did he bring him 13 in a day? The question is, what age was he when this Maisa took place? Okay, that's important. That's very important. Was he 12 going on 13 or 13 going on 14? Good. That's the Shiloh. So it says the Gemara, Tanya. Maisa Reb Chanina, Shediru Aviv ben Nazir. His father made him into a Nazir. They vilifnei Rabbi Gamliel, and he brought Reb Chanina in front of Reb Gamliel. While Reb Gamliel boitkai, and Reb Gamliel was checking him out. Laid that to know im heavy shtei saros, im low heavy, if he brought or not. Rabbi Yossi Amar laid that im giel oinis the darin im lav. Okay, guys, there you have the machlokes. According to the Tanakama, that Rabbi Gamliel was going to check out whether he bought stei saros. That would be like Rebbe. And according to Rabbi Yossi, it's not like Rabbi Yossi or Yehuda. You're going to checking out whether they reach Einis the Darim or not. That's the Shiloh. So let's say the machlokes between Rebbe would hold like the Tanakama, and Rabbi Yossi would hold like Rabbi Yehuda would hold like Rabbi Yossi. Rabbi Yossi laid that to know Imagil Einis the Darim Alav. Amalei Rebbe, Al Titstar Leboit Kani. Said Rabbi to Rabbi Gamliel, Rebbe, don't be mitzvah yourself to check me out. In cotton ani, if I'm a cotton, Eye b'shvil Abba. And then if I'm a cotton, I didn't bring shtei saros yet. I'll be what? I'll be for my father's naziris. In gadol ani, and if I'm a gadol, ani b'shvil atzmi, then I'll be what for myself. So that's what he said. So I'm a man of shach, I'm a nazir. Amar Rabbi Gamliel of Nashkal Roisha. Rabbi Gamliel went ahead and kissed Rabbi Chanina on the head. I'm a muftach ani b'zeh shemayra halach b'Yisrael. I'm sure that this person will be a moira hira. He'll be a dayan What the Mashayir Rabbi Yisrael. Now, Bishleim Rabbi Yossi says that it's speaking what? That Oinus the Dorim, in other words, it's speaking about the year 12 to 13. Damach Yigila Oinus the Dorim. Hainu de Amar in Kotan Ani. Rabbi Gamliel said the Rabbi Chanina Kotan Linyin Dorim Eye Bishvil Abba. Then it should be for my fathers. And look at the Bach, Vim Lav, and if not, Ani Eye Bishvil Atzmi. And if I am, in other words, if I reach Oinus the Dorim, if I didn't reach Oinus the Dorim, then I'm for my father. If I did reach Oinus the Dorim, then I'm for myself. So the dialogue between Reb Chanina and Reb Gamliel can be explained according to Reb Yosef ben Yehuda if the machloikus is what? By Oinus the Dorim. And he's saying, if I did reach Oinus the Dorim, it's because of my father. If I did reach Oinus the Dorim, then it's because of myself. El Rebbe the Amar, and again, the Havamina now, guys, is speaking from years 12 to 13. Good? El Rebbe the Amar at Sheyavish te Sarois, Vim Gadol Ani Eye Bishval Atzmi, Amar Aleph, Habeshusei Davu Ekayim. Fellas, if it's between the ages of 12 and 13, even if he reached Oinus the Dorim, who cares? Rebbe's of the opinion that what? He has to be stay Sarois. So what was he saying? There's no way he can become the Zeros for himself because he's still in the Rishus of the father. Oinus the Dorim. Rebbe doesn't hold Oinus the Dorim. He holds the only time he can go ahead and be in himself. That's from the ages 13 to 14, not 12 to 13, right? Because he's still in the Rishus of the father till he brings Shtei Sarois. So, Fred the Gemara Kasha, late Rebbe, that is totally in Shtei Sarois. How in the world could you go ahead and explain the dialogue between Rebbe Chanina and Rebbe Gamliel? After the Gemara, Elo the Amar Aha B'Shvil Abba. Forget it. Forget that you thought that it's speaking on this Dorim. If I didn't, you want to check me out for Saros. If I don't have Saros, then it's with my father. And if I do have Saros, so either way, in other words, it is totally in Saros. If I don't have it, then I'm a Nazir because my father is a serious. And if I do have it, then what? Then I'm a Nazir because of my own. So that's the way he held serve. Oh, you guys, the end of the Gemara now says something. I'm not exactly sure I understand why, but this is what it is. Let's say he's of the age of 13 to 14, right? He's the age of bringing Saros. So let's say you check him out and he didn't bring Saros yet. So he'd still be in Rishus to the father. Good. Let's say at the end of Naziris, you checked him out and he didn't bring Saros. He's still in the Rishus to the father. Let's say at the beginning of the Naziris, you checked him out and he had Shtei Saros, then it'd be because of himself. So either way, if beginning he has it, it's because of himself. If at the end he doesn't have it, it's because of his father. What happens if you find out in the middle? He's a Nazir for 15 days, and in the middle, all of a sudden, he has Shtei Saros. That would end the Nazirus to the father, right? It's not pshat there's a Kabbalah and it extends to the end. That would end the Nazirus to the father. How in the world can he bring Kabbanis then? And that's the problem. He won't be able to bring Kabbanis. Fred Gemara Kasha. Shtei Saros may kara chayim ben Nazirus didlay. If at the beginning of the 13th year he bought Shtei Saros, 2 years, then he'll be what? A Nazir because himself. Well, the Besoif and the end, Koyim ben Naziris Tavua. And the end, he knows he brings Naziris in the end of it, he does not have Shtei Saros, then he'll what? He'll be in the Rishus to the father, and he'll be in Nazir because of the father. However, v'aisi b'mitzoi, mai. What happens if he brings the hair in the middle? And that's going to stop the Naziris. The whole Yehuda the Dorim, it's a totally honest the Dorim, since not in his own Rishus yet, because he didn't reach the Dorim, it'll be fine. El Rebbe the Amar at Shiyavish te Sarois, Mayekla Meimar, Lechoyret's going to end his Naziris, and he won't be able to bring Karbonis. So Ami, the Rebbe, Leket Takanta, like Rebbe, there's no Takana to bring Karbonis, Ad Yosef delay v'Yosef Davua. He has to go ahead to his father and his own, and then he will be able to go ahead and bring Karbonis. Okay, that's the Daf. The Inyan Chinuch, guys. Let's go to Inyan Chinuch. Let's go back over the Toisvis. On Omid Chav Ches Amid Aleph, guys. Chav Ches Amid Beis. Chav Ches Amid Beis. We asked Leit Reish Lakish, why you're limiting the ability to make a Nazira to the father, to the son, it should extend to the daughter. After all, the Havamina the Gemara is there's no chinuch by a daughter. So what was the teretz? There's no chinuch by a daughter. Says Taisvis, the kach halacha this is the halacha, b'no the shaykh b'mitzvahs l'chshegat yagdil. A b'no that's shaykh and mitzvahs when he gets older, mutal ala av l'chanchai. There's a chiyah for the father to go ahead and be mechanechim. Avol bitoy loy. But a woman who I guess is limited by mitzvahs, she would be part of all mitzvahs she's grama. Then loy tema tzamada hadam of alma kadam oichel nevelis ein besdim mitzvah malav lafrishay. Right? Shua ben Karcha ben I don't know. Af lechanchoy lasis mitzvah mutal la'av. So l'chayra, why Bezdin? We said what Bezdin should be able to separate the child from eating the velas. You see a child be machal Shabbos, you don't have to do anything. He's eating pig. You don't have to separate him. Yesh leimar the chinuch l'shayach elav aziru lasos l'kayim mitzvah. Chinuch is positive, guys. Chinuch very talking about positive parenting. Chinuch is to do something. To tell the child not to do something, that's be alumnus in chinuch. Then you're going to teach the child, turn off the child. Don't do this and don't do that. Don't do this and do that. Chinuch is do positives, right? And therefore, to tell a child not to eat nevelis would be what? Don't do something. That we don't do. To tell a child to become a nazir, that we do. To go ahead and warn him not to be over, that's not chinuch. Now, it's a nice guy. This is a tremendous chiddush. Now, what about don't eat on Yom Kippur, guys? That's a don't. Don't eat on Yom Kippur. Hainu kiyam mitzvah anisa. That's the kiyam mitzvah say of the inui. The eating, guys, is not good. You chayiv chorus for eating, but the mitzvah is inui. Go ahead. I'm teaching you to ma'ani yourself. Oidom re the chinuch leishayich ela ba'av. Another teretz. The din of chinuch is only by the father, so a father could go ahead and tell the child not to eat nevelis, not to mechal Shabbos, but bezdin not. Aval be'inish achrina leishayich. And here's what we're saying over here, you have the kasha. How do we say over here that a daughter is not mechuyev mitzvahs? Yet over there, yet we say over there, you mechanech your daughter not to fast. So it's not tzarich lechalek bedover. It's a reason to be mechalek in this matter. What exactly the chiluk is that's a big grade. So let's see. What's the whole meaning of chinuch? Where's the source for chinuch? So according to Taisus the Rabbanon, I'm not sure if the Meshech Chachma disagrees. Okay, let's see. What does the Meshech Chachma say? It says the Meshech Chachma. Okay, now the pasuk says, "L'man asher yitzabes bonav beis of Achrav." It says by Avram Avinu, by Sedoim, I know he'll command his son and his children afterwards. Hine chinuch mitzvos l'banim b'mitzvos aseh le'niskar. There's no mention in the Torah to mechanech a child in mitzvahs aseh. It doesn't say anywhere make him into a nazir. It doesn't say anywhere to put him in a sukkah. It doesn't say anywhere to take him to shul. None of these are stated. Lo niskar rak aseh devlimartem es benechem. The only mitzvah aseh is you should teach your children Torah and hu b'talmud Torah. The only source for chinuch, guys, is Talmud Torah. That's the source of chinuch. V'omru ben nazir daf chav tes amud aleph the av chayiv l'chanach beno b'mitzvahs. Pirish, the have kamay mitzvahs aseh shel Talmud Torah. The isha b'tura. It would make a lot of sense if the whole source of chinuch is the matam es benechem, to teach your sons, and that's a mitzvah on the father, and that's speaking about Torah. So memela, if that's the source for chinuch, we'd understand why a woman is not mitzvah to go ahead and be mechanech the child. After all, a woman is part of Talmud Torah, and if the source of chinuch is Talmud Torah, a woman would not be who's part of Talmud Torah would not have a din of chinuch. The Yuyin Arachayim Simen Shimem Gimel, the Birui Hagra, Uvimogan Avram, Umakar Mitzvahs Chinuch Mitzvahs Aseh, Makari Bezeh HaPasuk Me Avram Avinu, Shetziva Es Bonav B'Ktanim Ala Mitzvahs. In other words, according to them, it's not V'Limartem Es B'Nechem Torah, but it extends. Avram Avinu is told by HaKadosh Baruch Hu, HaKadosh Baruch Hu is saying to himself, I have to go ahead and tell Avram what's going to happen in Sodom. L'man asher etzav es bonav es beis of Achrav. Now when it says it's bonav es beisoi, that means what? Shetziv es bonav b'ketanim ala mitzvahs, right? And l'chayra, it's not only limited to sons, but also daughters. And Krod the Chanach Nar Pidarko that everyone quotes, She'evi Rambam, B'Seif Hilchos Ma'achalos Yisuros, V'Shom Lenin Yisurim, Havi Midivri Kabbalah. Avalekami Avram. The main source is Avram. The Kan Mashma from there, Sha'af L'Bonos Mitzvah Ala Av. That what even for Bonos is Mitzvah. Good. So Meshech Chacham is asking a question. Meshech Chacham is asking, Bishleima, according to me, there's a din of chinuch of sons. I understand they're not daughters. But if you're going to tell me that the source is that what Lumana Shabbos Spana is based of Achrov, that the source is what is from Avram Avinu. There it's mashma that what he's mitzvah. It's in his sons and his daughters. So how do you explain a Gemara that says a man is not mitzvah in his daughters? Kama, the Rabbi says the Gemara v'chan mashma she'af l'bonis mitzalav v'yu b'magen Avram. The Rabbi Nazir ein mitzvah al bitoi. V'chi mashma Gemara sham v'yimakam laharich. Says the Meshech Chochma that the Magen Avram apparently based upon a Gemara is correct. Based upon a Gemara, the Meshech Chochma is saying when it says over here that there's no din of chinuch for a daughter, it's not speaking universally. It's not speaking universally. It's speaking le'inyan nazir. This is a unique din. There's no mitzvah to make your daughter into nazir. The mitzvah is for your son to become a nazir, not a mitzvah for your daughter to become a nazir. Mashenkein, all other mitzvahs, a woman would be mechuyev, a man would be mechuyev, and therefore the Gemara in Yuma, which says that a man is mitzvah to go ahead and make his daughter fast as well, that's very good. It's not a steer to Gemara. Gemara, according to the Magen Avram and the Meshech Chochma, is unique to Nazir. When it says it's not mechuyev, like Reish Lakish, not the chinuch. There's no chinuch to make her a Nazir. There would be chinuch le'inyan and all other mitzvahs that she's shaykh to, and that would be perhaps when Tosfos says the tzarich l'chalik b'davar. Perhaps that's what Tosfos would mean. The chilik would be the chilik between our Gemara and that Gemara. Our Gemara is limited to Nazir. That Gemara is not speaking about Nazir. He would go ahead, and that would be a possibility how to answer up the Tosfos based upon the Meshech Chochma. Now, why would there be a din of Nazir, dafka the son and not the daughter? So this is my own perhaps way. It's very interesting. There's an unbelievable Maritzchias over here. I'm going to go through that as well. He says a wonderful chiddush, guys. Okay, the Maritzchias is one of the achronim found in the back of the Gemara, right? And he explains about chinuch, guys. He's going to explain chinuch. Hold on, let me get this again. He explains chinuch. Listen what he says. V'yosi chinuch de Rabbanon, v'dochi akofa de Rabbanon. Nira be'inai, kashli kusha chamura. I got a huge question. Moed. Hine. Yadanu koyach inyan chinuch. And the guys, listen, what's the inyan of chinuch? You thought chinuch is to teach a child what to do? It's not limited to that. Of course, that's part of that. Listen to this. What's the inyan of chinuch? Kinyan in chinuch, hainu, leman shlo yiyu ha-mitzvahs ala odom lemasa. The mitzvahs should not be on a person, a load. Imachiyav yaskel bepesa pisoim. If the chinuch will happen immediately, miyad. Shenase gadol, as soon as he becomes a gadol. The kodem azman yeh chavshim b'kol mitzvahs. Right? Namish is out of the ballpark completely. He's not in the ballpark at all. He's gone, right? Not involved at all. All of a sudden, punk, what happens? Punk, you're going to go ahead and say, guess what? Here you are, you're 13, and now you're chuv mitzvahs. Take it from a very poor decision. I was raising my kids, and they were frosting their face off Shabbos morning all the time. They were eating. They had the Entenmann's donuts dinking into the coffee. They was geschmack. They got up Shabbos morning. It was a special treat. Comes my mitzvah. No, you can't eat before Kiddush. Can't eat before Kiddush. That's it. Boom. It came down like a ton of bricks on them. Chinuch is to go ahead and get them used to doing mitzvahs, so when the chiyuv does come, it doesn't come with such a full force. That's the Maritzchias. Fantastic interpretation of mitzvahs. Again, not only what you're supposed to do, but again, in Loloisa says what you're not supposed to do. That's the inyan of chinuch. That's the inyan of chinuch according to the Maritzchias, guys. And now he has a great kasha. Says the Maritzchias, now I have to go ahead some way, somehow. I have to be able to. Okay, anyway, I thought I'd be able to do this. For some reason. Okay, Marskias has a Gavaldic question. He asked, what's the chinuch by Nazir? There's no mitzvah to become a Nazir. Well, Bishleim make a sukkah, it's filled in. All these things, chinuch, you're doing a mitzvah. But to be a Nazir, what kind of mitzvah is that? Adrabah, making a neder is kila bana bama. If you make a neder, it's like you're building a bama. If you makayim the neder, it's kila makrav. It's a bad thing. So what kind of chinuch is that? He remains tzarchi and gadol. If you look at the Rosh says one line. If you look at the Rosh says one line. The lechankus b'mitzvahs neziris, the lechankus b'mitzvahs kama, the neziris sayog leprecious. Naziris is a sayog for precious. It's sayog to be a pirish. It's a sayog to be a pirish, right? That's the Indian of Naziris. The Indian Naziris what is one of precious, to teach a person to go ahead what and be a little ascetic a little bit. I think to be able to be pirish of something. You don't need everything. You don't have to indulge in everything. I was thinking this Indian of precious is something that is unique to a man. A woman is not, anytime you find precious, you find it usually by a man. The idea of precious to be a pirish, to go ahead and separate himself for something. And therefore, that perhaps is the Shat in the Meshech Chochmah and the Magen Avram. Why there's no din of chinuch by a Nazira? Because since there's of a daughter by becoming a Nazira, by a son, if the whole din of chinuch is to teach him precious, so they be din by a son. Mashen came by a daughter where there's no din of precious, perhaps. Then there won't be a din of what of being mechanech yedora. Mashen came all other mitzvahs. There's no difference, and therefore the din of chinuch, like we said by Yom Kippur, would extend to women as well, to a daughter as well. And that perhaps is the idea of chinuch. So yeah, it's midmarino. It's very interesting, right? There's a din of chinuch. I think the share with if you're raising children or grandchildren. I think this Maritzchias is an eye opener. It's an eye opener. That in other words, before you machanach, you got to think: is this going to come down on my kid like a ton of bricks? It's going to something he's what am I accomplishing with this? Am I accomplishing what I want to accomplish? A limited chinuch is to go ahead and accustom to do something. Of course, that's part of it. But also in addition, there is something behind it, right? There's something behind it, a deeper thing behind it, right? That whether it's going to be something that he's going to feel as a load or not. This will be very matim with the Tosfos. The Tosfos said that the din of chinuch is an asay and not a lois asay. Because again, the psychology by a lois asay, you're going to teach a child don't. And we all know that doesn't work, right? You got to teach a child do. Always show the beauty of Torah rather than the negativity of Torah. So combining the Maritzchias with the Tosfos teretz that there's no din of by that there's a din of no din of chinuch by going ahead and separating and kana with zochel nevelis, because then you teach him not to do something. That would be very, very matim. That would be very tzugapas. Okay, wish everyone a good day. Thanks for listening.